Hi guys, welcome back to the next episode of 100 Apps, 100 Hours, where we rebuild or clone some of your favorite apps or publicly fail, shamefully fail trying. All right, I'm your host, Bryant Gillespie, developer advocate at Directus. Super excited to have you. I've got a special guest, my lovely wife, joining me. I'm not sure if you can see her on my shirt here. This is a running gag between us where she basically gets me clothing with her face on it. So we'll include her in this episode. Today, we're all about building a food ordering platform similar to DoorDash, Grubhub, or it seems like one of these platforms pops up every single week. The rules are very simple. We have 60 minutes to plan and build this application, no more, no less. And the second rule, the anti-rule, is we're going to use whatever we have at our disposal, whether that's AI, UI frameworks, front-end frameworks. We're going to be using Directus on the back end to generate this app really quickly. So let's kind of talk about the food ordering app before we dive in. You may have seen some of these before. We've just got a list of menu options. We want to be able to place those inside a cart and place an order for that cart, have somebody bring that food to us. So that's the basic gist of what we're building. Let's get started. All right, so let's roll the timer and begin. I'm gonna just pull this to the side and let's pull up DoorDash just to take a look at this, right? So here's kind of what we're after. We've got different restaurants on here, and if I click into one of these, like the Bun Stop Shop, I have a menu of items here, and we can add these to a particular cart. Choose some options. I don't know that we'll get to things like options. We'll probably just try to keep this very simple to begin with. We'll go ahead and add this to the cart, and now I can go and place an order for this and have it sent to my delivery location. So great, that looks good. Let's discuss the functionality that we actually want out of this particular application, right? So I'm going to drag this down. In 60 minutes, I don't want to bite off more than I can chew here, if we're doing cliches. So let's, we've got the data model for the back end. We'll get that set up. On the front end, we will show a list of menu items for a restaurant. Place an order for menu items. And that's probably pretty good for an hour. I don't know. We'll see how far we get with it. The next thing I always like to do is just sketch out my data model. And one way that you could do this is obviously if you're trying to model another application, right? You could always kind of look at it and think through it. One of the things that I like to do, in this case, I'm going to just search for the DoorDash API because I know that they have other services that connect to this. And it looks like they do have an API that we could potentially use here. We don't want to drive for DoorDash. Maybe it's this marketplace API, how-to guides, menu flows, and order flows. Here we go. Retrieve orders from DoorDash. Set up a menu pull, set up a menu push, get a DoorDash menu. Okay, yeah, so I can at least see a little bit of how they've got this structured, right? So I see there's a store that's associated to this. We have a menu. I'm assuming this is like it could be a breakfast menu or a lunch menu or a dinner menu. Maybe we have different menus that way. Then we have categories, I see. And then we have the actual items. Right, so that gives me a good idea of how they've solved this problem. And obviously they're a large company, so they've got a lot of smart people on it. Do I want to take that at face value? Probably not. But for an hour, it seems like a pretty good model, right? So let's start sketching this out. I'm just going to make this full screen. We'll add a little box here. We've got stores or restaurants. I'm not sure which one of those I'm going to call it yet. Probably stores is easier. Then we have menus. What else do we have underneath that? We've got menu items. Probably like categories, right? I saw that on there. So we've got different items in the categories, menu items. And then we're going to have an orders table with probably some order items as well. Orders items. All right. Don't necessarily have to do this, but each menu belongs to a restaurant. The menu items belong to a category. So there's a relationship there. Just draw these arrows. This is more for me just visually to see how everything maps. Directus, our backend, will make creating these relationships and these models very easy. Great. We probably have a restaurant that's attached to the order. We have a menu item that's attached to the order item. And then we've got an actual person placing the order. Directus is going to give us that. That will be our users table probably. Users place orders. Okay. All right. So as far as the structure of this, we got that. Don't worry about that little guy there. This seems pretty good as far as the structure, right? So how do we start building something like this? I'm going to pull up my blank instance of Directus. Directus is going to mirror all the changes that we make here inside the application. All of our collections, those are going to be tables inside our database. All the fields are going to get represented as columns. So it's a great way to build out this functionality. And for me, I'm very front-end oriented, so I'm a very visual person. So instead of writing migrations, this is great for me. I can go in and build this data model visually. And if I need to store it as code, I could kick out the schema.json file as well that others who are working on this project could apply. So let's go with stores. I really like that. If we just take a look at DoorDash, one of the things that I was curious about, okay, it looks like we have an ID for the store. They're not using anything like a slug, so it doesn't really matter for SEO purposes. Let me get back here. So we're going to create this new collection. I can zoom in a bit. We've got stores. We've got our generated UUID. Let's go ahead and just add these system fields here just for status, date created. They give us some of that functionality out of the box. So we're going to have a name for the store. We're going to keep this really lightweight so we could try to get push orders into this. So we'll just do a name. Let's do a logo or an image. Let's just call it image for the store. Great. We probably got something like an address, probably, right? Street address. We have a city. I'm just going to duplicate this field, which is really nice. Street address, city, state or region. We're trying to be international friendly here. And then we'll have postal code. Great. Cool. And then I may even just group these together inside Directus using our detail group interface. We'll just call it an address info. And we can even add a nice little map pin. There we go. So we'll group these together. Region, city. We can make those half width. Directus really allows you to customize the forms that your users will see. On the front end here, I'm probably not going to give the people placing orders the access to the Directus Data Studio here, but I certainly could give the restaurants owners or the store owners access to that to manage their menu, their store information. All right, so this looks pretty good for our stores. Let's move on to the next one. Actually, take that back. Let me add a building, like a company, office building, business. There we go. All right. So that looks kind of like a store. Great. All right. So next we are going to add menus. All right, we will. I can add these things whether they are in draft mode or publish. I may want to track when it was created, who it was updated by, etc. We'll give a name for the menu, and I'm just gonna skirt the categories thing here, and just add these. Maybe we don't, but yeah, let's do. We'll just go menu items, right? And for menu items, again, I'll just populate these. They're always easy to remove later. We might want to have a sort field so we can order those items. Not not actually place an order for them, but order them in terms of like sorting. What else? Okay, so on our menu items, if we look at DoorDash, we've got a name for the item, we've got description, probably a price. Right? Where's our DoorDash menu? What does an item have? An item has a name, it has a description. Is it active? Is it alcohol? Is it bike friendly? I would argue that a cheeseburger is not bike friendly, but I'm sure this is on the delivery side. And then I see things like price. I see a tax rate. And then I see like some extras. For the purposes of this, let's keep it lightweight. We've got a name for this. We've got an image for the menu item. We'll just create that. Let's have a description. I'm just going to keep that as straight text. Toggle this sidebar within Arc as well. So you probably don't want to do a WYSIWYG description here. And there's always risk if you're not sanitizing HTML content that is user submitted. So we'll just use text area. What else do we have? We have a price that we're going to set for this. That can be an input. I know a lot of e-commerce options store the prices as integers, like in cents. I'm just going to use a decimal here. And I could go into field creation mode if I want to. If I want to control like the precision and things like that, and the scale. So I will just put 2 here. I only want 2 decimal places. We could do a formatted label, and I can even add a prefix within Directus, which is really nice here. We'll do auto format, see what that generates for us. Cool. So we've got our menu items. We've got menus. Right? Let's add a relationship between all of these. So we have a store, it has a menu, or potentially menus. And then each menu has menu items. So if I go into menus, the designer or the recovering designer in me is going to freak out if I do not add at least some type of icon for this. But let's add a relationship. And hey, this is going to be really easy inside Directus. This is going to be a one-to-many relationship because we have items on our menu. We have one menu, many items. So I'll go in and we'll call this items is going to be the name of our field in the menu collection or the menus table. And then our related collection is going to be menu items. And the foreign key would be the menu. Right. So inside that menu items, we're going to create a new field called menu. And I definitely want to show a link back to that item within the Data Studio. Now, if you expand this into the advanced settings when you're creating relationships or just adding fields to the collection, you can see here that menu is not on menu items. That field does not currently exist. But Directus is going to create that for us, which is really nice, right? I don't have to mess with sitting down and doing migrations. As you can see, we're going to build this functionality really quickly. All right, so we have menus, we got a name, we got menu items. Let's go ahead and save this. If I go into our menu items, now I've got a field for menu, so that's going to show up. What else do we need to add here, right? We're going to need an orders table. So we'll say orders. We'll definitely want to know who placed those orders. What's the status of that order? Is it ready or not? And then let's go in and add order items. Again, naming things is very challenging. You know, like, should this be called orders underscore items or order items? Uh, I like it this way. Totally up to you. Whatever you want to name this inside your own. Maybe we sort those. So we've got orders. We've got order items. The order, if we just think through this, and of course add a great looking icon for it, the order is going to be linked to a specific store, right? We can only place one order from a store. So we'll go in. This is going to be a many to one relationship. And we've got this up over here so we can see everything we've got going on. This is going to be the store. The related collection will be our stores. And Directus is going to create that relationship for us. And again, if I were to just open up Table Plus so you could get a look at this, what is happening behind the scenes here? Directus is creating these relationships, is creating my tables, it's creating all my columns in the database, and it's also creating those relationships for me inside the underlying SQL. So if I were to rip out Directus one day, all my SQL data is still pure, everything inside my database. All right, so we've got an order, we've got a store, we've got a customer, right? We'll call that customer. This is going to be the Directus users collection. We've got an address for that, so we could go in and do street address, city. I could also go back to that other collection and just duplicate these across, which is probably what I should have done, but no worries there. All right, so we'll add these fields, and again, I could group these together using our detail group. We'll call this address info. We may, again, we're gonna have a front end where users place their order, but on the back end, we could fulfill these orders through the Directus interface as well, through the app. And that, again, that helps me just move things along faster so that I don't have to build an admin interface. I could just use Directus here to manage all of that data. All right. Orders, and then we have our items, right? So we'll go in. This is going to be a one-to-many relationship. There's one order that has many items. Because I know, at least at first, or when you're modeling data this way, it can be kind of confusing of which relationships to use. So this is a one-to-many from the orders table to the order items. I'm going to call this items as well. And the table is going to be order items. And then we're going to use a foreign key of order. I always like to show a link to the item so I can open that up inside Directus. And we'll just hit save here. Great. We got a store, we got a customer, we got a street address, we've got a status that we can go in and adjust. Right, this is a draft order, published order, an archived order. That doesn't make a ton of sense. Right, so let's just nuke those. We'll call this a new order. We'll call it in progress or being made. I don't know. Again, naming things is part of one of the hardest things inside development. We'll say ready for pickup. And delivery out for delivery. Out for delivery. Let's just say delivered, right? I think those are just a quick rundown of what the different states could be for a specific order. Is it new? Is being made? It's ready for pickup. Somebody comes and picks it up. It's out for delivery, and it's delivered, right? Again, it's not as simple as this, right? You've got a driver and things like that included, but we're keeping this very simple so we can actually dive into the functionality. So on the order, we also probably have like a total for the order as well, right? Order total that would sum up all of the individual line items. This is going to be an input field. The schema, though, we probably want the type to be decimal, just because that's what we have for our menu items. Great. Again, you could store this as cents and do all of that on the front end as well. What else do we have? We've got the order items. We've got the order, and then we're going to add a relationship here to the menu items. So this is going to be a many to one relationship because we can only add one menu item to one order item. That's great. So we'll call this the menu item. Sounds great. Menu items. That's our related collection. We'll hit save. What do we have next? We'll probably have a price for this specific item as well. Again, that's going to be a decimal. I can adjust the number of decimal points. Great. And then one of the other things that I saw on DoorDash here, this is not an actual order. Let's see if we can find an order, right? What does an actual order look like? Retrieve orders from DoorDash, blah, 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 notable fields. Let's just look at the UI. So I go in and I add this. I can add special instructions, right? So let's add a field for special instructions. And we also probably have a quantity, right? I can go in and adjust the quantity of these. So if I want 3, 4, 5 hash browns, I don't have to add a separate item. So we'll do quantity. That'll be an integer. Can't order half of a hash brown. I guess you could. I'm not sure that they would deliver it. So we have quantity, menu item. Let's show the actual order. This little hidden eye there tells me that is not displaying to the person when they pull up this form. But there we have the order. We have the menu item. We have the quantity. We have the price. And we probably have something like amount or subtotal. Item subtotal. Again, this is where it gets tricky as to what you name these things. So the subtotal here would just be the quantity times the price. That's going to equal our item subtotal. All right, so this feels pretty good, right? That's kind of what we had. We just totally erased categories for now. We just want to get to this core functionality. We've got roughly 30 minutes and some change to evaluate this, right? So first, let's go in. I'm just going to pull this up side by side. And I'm just going to steal some of these items, right? Let's go in, and I don't want to do McDonald's. I've got my address set to Yankee Stadium here in the Bronx. If you work at Yankee Stadium, I'm sorry. We're going to deliver some food to you. May not be something that you like. All right. Let's go with wallet friendly. Jimbo's Hamburger House. Looks good. Let's go in and add a new store over here. So inside Directus, you can see how that form, that data model that I set up, how this actually looks when we are managing this. So again, you're probably, for something like DoorDash or an order delivery app, you're probably not going to give the person placing the order, like the end user, access to this. But this interface is so beautiful. I could certainly give the store owners that wanted to sell their stuff on our platform access to this. So this is 252 St. Anne's Avenue, the Bronx, New York. I don't have a postal code. We'll just say 5555, right? And then I can see I've got a image here. I could just copy that image address, and Directus makes this really easy to import images from a URL. Boom. Great. Maybe I even want to show this image. When you are creating your data models, you've got a ton of options as to how these things display inside the application. So I could go into this image field and I can display a tiny image preview. I can even make it show up as a circle like what they have there. Great. There we go. We got Jinbo's Hamburger Stand, Hamburger House. Let's go into our menus, right? So we'll create a menu. Let's call this the lunch menu. We're missing that relationship though, right? Where do we actually create a relationship between menus and stores? We did not. So let's do that quickly before we get too carried away. We will create a many-to-one relationship on the menus back to the stores, and then I can open this up, and in our relationship field, I can add that back as well. So here's our menus. Cool. Great. All right. So now I've got that relationship. I go into the menu. I can pick the store. There's Jinbo's Hamburgers. And let's start adding some items from this, right? We've got our silver dollar pancakes. This looks good. Items are silver dollar pancakes. I can copy that image address and have Directus pull this in. We've got some additional options here. I don't see any like descriptions for those. Not a big deal. The price is $6.50. So we'll just input that. All right, next, let's add some other options. We've got a Philly steak bacon wrap with fries deluxe. So we'll just add that here. Looks like I don't have an image for that one, but I do have a description. What was the price for that? It is $12.50. Great. So we'll just input some of this data. Why don't I have an image on this? Jinbo, you need to get some images on DoorDash, my man. So we'll just do a Philly steak and cheese. Who knows where we're ripping this from? This looks good. Copy image address. That one's not available. Philly steaks. I guess this is going to be all sorts of copyright infringement here. This is for entertainment purposes only. Any lawyers watching this, just so we know. Maybe I can get Nat. Nat edits our videos. He's amazing. Nat, maybe you could place a disclaimer on here somewhere. All right, so we've got a couple of menu items. What else do we have? We have waffles. We have Tex-Mex. Good enough. All right, so we don't have any orders. We don't have any order items, but at least we have a couple menu items, and we have a store. Great. Let's dive into something on the front end, right? What am I using on the front end? I've got just a basic Nuxt starter kit. I'm a Vue guy, so I like coding in Nuxt and Vue. And then I've just got this simple app, right? So if we go back to DoorDash, we've got to get some kind of view where we have a list of restaurants. And how do we do this, right? Nuxt 3 has this use async data composable. So let's just call this stores. That's our key. And then inside this starter kit, I've just got a module that communicates with Directus. I've got a little composable here that auto imports items from the different methods from our SDK and allows me to communicate. So we'll just adjust this. This is going to be our stores. And here, let's just maybe, we're not going to flex this, but let's just log our data and see what we're getting back. So I could do data. Maybe I wrap this in a pre-tag. Bada bing, bada boom. I should be able to get this data. We should be reading something from stores, right? I'm not. So the issue here is that I have not set any permissions. Directus comes with rule-based access control, which is pretty amazing that I can configure all this via the UI and it applies in real time. But we've got two roles by default. The administrator role, which I can apply to users who have full access to the data model, all the different settings. And then we have the public role. So the public role, we want to give access to probably not. So they could probably see the stores, they could see the menus and the menu items. We don't want to give them ability to see any of the orders or create orders, right? You want to log in for that. So we might as well go ahead and add a new user here as well. So the user role should be able to place orders. They should be able to view orders, with the exception that they can only see their orders, right? We don't want them to create menu items, but one of the other nice things about the rule-based access control in Directus is I could set up custom permissions, right? If I am a user, I shouldn't be able to see everybody else's orders. I should just be able to see mine. So I could do something like this, where in this read permission setting for our orders collection, I could go in and control the items that are available, right? So if I've got a user that created this, has to equal $_current user. So basically this is a little syntactic sugar. This will fetch the current user ID for you and set up permissions so that if I'm logged in as a specific user, I can only see my orders. That's super nice. All right. Cool. Let's go back to our front end. Now I refresh. I can actually see some data. This is good, right? Now let's go in and actually flesh this out. We've got div. Maybe we've got a grid of 3 columns. I love using Tailwind for the styling. Grid calls 3, maybe a gap of 4. All right, and then we have, I'm using the Nux UI library just as cheat codes here. They have a card component that I can use here. We'll just say uCard. We'll do a v4. And it looks like GitHub Copilot is propelling me forward here. We have the store.id. What are we going to drop inside the actual card? We probably have the, what do we want to do here? We want to add the image up top. And I can see there's like a template, like a header slot and a base slot, but maybe we just stick it all in the same one. I'm also using Nuxt image in this as well, which is really nice because I don't have to create any. It will automatically optimize the images for me, and Directus will do that via the API as well. But this is kind of nice, just because they use the same underlying technology, the same library. So let's do height 48, width 48, object cover. Jinbo, we're not getting the actual image, right? What's going on here? So if I check our network requests, if I just slide this over to images, hey, we're getting a 403 forbidden on the images as well, right? So images and assets are a system collection inside Directus. So I've got Directus files. That's where all of our assets get stored. And aside from the actual image on disk, we're keeping that library of them. I forgot to enable control for those. So I can go in under system collections. I'll just enable access to those files. Let's go ahead and give this user access to those as well. Where are you, files? Okay, they've got access. That's great. I probably shouldn't have closed Directus out entirely, but now I can see I've got this, right? And for the width, let's just do width full instead of 48. Okay, object cover. Whew, that's a little pixelated, doesn't look great. But next, let's go in and add what? We're going to add a title for this, right? The store.name. Let's make this bold. And maybe 3XL. Jinbo's Hamburger House. Okay. All right, up top here, we can add a H1 tag, restaurants, or H2. Maybe this is H1. Bold, text gray, 600. Maybe we add a bit of margin to that. It's a little much. Maybe MB8. And then here for this, I think we've got a container here as well that we might use. I think it just applies some padding. uContainer. So we get away from, okay, yeah, now we're not pressing on the edges of this. Another one of my favorite tools is Tailwind UI. If you build apps and you like speed running things like I do, it's super handy, right? I could go in and I've got store navigation here. I could just basically lift one of these store navigation components if I wanted to. So let's look for like a header, marketing elements. We've got a header here. How do I just get something really simple? This looks pretty good. We'll just copy this. I'm going to create a new component. I'm going to call it the header.view. We'll do a view component. What do they got? They've already got some of this for me. Let's just copy it and see how far we get. I could go into our default layout and maybe I want to add the header here. See what that gets us. Failed to resolve the imports for the icons. They're using a different icon set than I am. I'm going to delete these out. And I'm not even really super concerned with this navigation either. Let's just make this our cart. We'll change that to a button for now. Type equals button. What do we get? Are we getting anything? Yeah. Cart MX button. Why is it not showing that? Oh, this is probably the mobile menu button. Hidden flex, type gray, justify end. Is it not showing? Okay, there it is. Product login. Let's do something like MD here. That way this is not hidden. MD. Refresh. Okay, so I got login. Let's just change this to cart. Again, I'm going to change this quickly to a button because we are going to use it to display our cart at some point. All right. Do we even need product? Let's just remove that. Forget about it. Okay, so we've got a menu, or we've got a restaurant, right? Now we need to be able to click on this specific restaurant. We go into that restaurant, and then we're going to display a list of all the items from that specific restaurant. All right, so let's go in and create a new route. We'll call it restaurants or stores in this case. And inside that directory, I'm going to do something like this where I use, what are those called? Just brackets? Yeah. We'll just use a dynamic route here, vcompts, and I could copy this async data call here, and let's call this our actual store. So we've got our stores. We're going to read, we don't want to read all the stores. We just want to pick up one individual store, and we're going to do that via the route parameters. So we'll do this route equals use route, which is just a composable that ships with view 3. And here should be route.id. And then as the third argument, we can pass in, like, hey, I want all these specific fields or not. Again, anytime I'm just like testing this out, I may add something like pre and just log that data just to see what I am working with initially. Okay, so we'll go back to our index page. We want to make this clickable. All right, so maybe we wrap this in Nux link. The 2 is going to be, let's say, dash stores store.id. All right, let's see where that gets us. Now I can click on this and it goes to the store route. You can see that we had a route change. Store for the, let's do something like this. Async data for the caching, it uses a key. So I could pass the key like this and do route.id. Let's see if that gives us what we're after. I refresh. Why am I not getting this? Oh, route.params.id. Duh. Silly rabbit, tricks are for kids. All right, so here's the data for the individual store. All right, if I go back, you can see the difference. I'm getting an array of items here because I'm calling the Directus API via read items. When I click on Jinbo's Hamburger House, I get just the actual item because we are using read item here. We're picking that up by the param ID. Now, how do I get access to this actual menu item? Right. A couple ways I could do this. I could make another call, or one of the many things that I love about Directus is the ability to get all of the related fields in a single call. And I'm going to use this wildcard syntax here just so we could take a look at it. In production, you probably wouldn't want to use this. But if I wanted to, I could just fetch the ID, right? So it's very GraphQL-like in that I can tell it specifically the fields that I want, and I can go in and do something like this where I get menus.star. We can see, okay, here's the different menus. I want to drill down one more layer, and I want to get menus.items.star. That is a wildcard for all of these items. And that could give me everything that I need to render this on the page, right? I could go one further if I'm storing like metadata like alt tags or title text or something on the image itself. I could drill into that further. Really all I need to render an image is just the ID, but great. So now how do we set this up? Let's go in and we'll add a menu. Let's add an H1. This is going to be the store.name. Class 3XL. Font bold. Maybe we don't make this bold. Let's see what we got. We got Gino's Hamburger's House. Maybe we dress this up a little bit. What does it look like inside DoorDash? We've got like this nice header image up here at the top. We don't really have one of those, but I could at least show the logo for the store, right? Let's make it look nice. Store dot image. Is that what we called it? Class. Let's make it square. 48. Let's do 24. We'll make it smaller, right? Width 24. Object cover rounded full. This should give us the image there. We could probably wrap this in div. Just flex that. Class equals flex. Do a gap of 2. And then within this, we might wrap that in a div as well. Okay, cool enough. We've got that. Now let's add these actual menu items, right? So I've got this array of menu items. Let's just take a peek at how we're doing on time. Roughly a little less than 20 minutes. Are we going to get this done or not? We shall see, right? So I'll go in. Let's just do a grid of menu items. Great. We've got a gap. Go Copilot Go, right? We're use that same uCard component, V for menu and store menu. I really like GitHub Copilot. It's great for like really simple auto completion things like this. One of the things that I can tell you is make sure whatever you do, you verify all of this before you actually use it, right? Because here I'm getting, okay, this is not actually working at all. So V for menu and store menus. We really just want the first item, right? We're going to do the items in store menus 1, the first item in there. That's going to be item.id. We don't really need the store, right? It's kind of weird. This is where GitHub Copilot gets you into a lot of trouble if you just blindly do whatever it's saying here. And this is still not coming up right. Item in store.menus.1. This would be the actual menus.items. There we go. Okay, so now we can see we've got our silver dollar pancakes. We've got our Philly steak and cheese. Let's make this smaller. And then at the bottom, we're going to add our price. Don't forget the item.description. Then we also need a price. All right, so item.price. Let's just see what that looks like. We can add a $sign. We've got our silver dollar pancakes. Cool. Maybe we want to give a little bit of gap between all of these. This is not going to be a Nux link either, right? We want this to be a button. Type equals button. We'll add some functionality into this in a moment. Class equals text left. Okay. Maybe we give it a flex call gap 2. Give a little bit of spacing in there. And make the width full. Well, yeah, there we go. That gets us what we want. Let's make the gap larger. Okay. Cool. So we got some menu items, right? We want to click on these menu items and add them into a cart. So what are we going to do? How are we going to manage this cart? Because it could be we want to maintain this cart across like page load and also across different restaurants or different pages as well. So for now, I think I'm just going to simply use a composable for this. I don't have Pina installed, which is a really great state library for Vue. Nux has a built-in used state composable that you could potentially use as well. But I like the idea of just adding a composable to manage this. So I'm going to add a new folder here in the root directory. I'm going to call it composable. Composables. Nux will actually auto import these. And let's call it usecart.ts. Right. We're going to export a default function usecart. And up here at the top, let's just take a look at our cart structure, right? What do we have? What do we want to send? So we've got the orders. If we take a look at our data model, right, we had the store, we had the customer, that's going to be our individual user. So we've got to log in as a user. We've got our items. We've got a total for that. Okay, so let's go in and add a list of items. That's going to be an array of items. Right. What else are we going to have inside this composable? Right. We've got our items. We're pulling this outside of the function definition because we want to store this. If we call this use cart in multiple places, we still want to access the same items. All right. So this is going to return the items for that cart. We're going to add those the order total, right? So we have the order total. That's going to be computed. That would be a return items dot produce dot item dot price. That's perfect. Thank you, GitHub. Got an order total. And then we've probably got a function for, let's go back up. Async function. Place. Let's add to cart. We're just going to push an item to the cart. We're going to remove from cart. Look at GitHub Copilot. Again, please take this with a grain of salt, whether this is actually wise or not. Index of item, items value, dot splice. Index of item. Okay. And then we've got, and these actually probably don't need to be async functions. And then we probably got an async function for submit order. Right. submit order. All right, this is going to be constant data equals, I don't know if that's going to be data or not. We'll do await. We'll do use Directus. Then we are going to create an item in the orders table or orders collection. The total for that order total, order underscore total, will be the order total dot value. Then we have our items, which are going to be, should just be items, right? So we could do something like, nope, we're not going to do that. We are going to do unref items, since that is unrefed. We've got the store info. And this customer field, inside Directus, I can save the current user on create. So let's do that. So the store is going to be, where are we going to get the store from? Maybe we're going to pass that in the function. Store ID, that's a string, store ID. All right, is this cool? We're going to return these other functions from our composable. Let's see how we do. All right. So now if we go back to our app, we've got the hamburger house. Let's just remove this, comment that out. All right, so we've got our menu. We want to push these items into a cart. Where are we at time-wise? We got 10 minutes left. Are we going to actually get these into a cart or not? So here inside this specific page, we might do what? We are going to return. Let's take a look at our composable. Right, we've got our order items. We've got our items in the cart. Let's call we're going to get items. Let's call these cart items. Add to cart. Remove from cart equals use cart. Okay. And then can we, hey, let's just drop in our cart items here just to see what that looks like. Cart items. It's not showing anything for our cart items. Are we getting an error? Let's actually take a look. So we'll go to ID. Cart items equals undefined. Oh, it's because I'm getting items. There we go. All right, so we're showing just an array. Let's just do this. I'm just going to give this some padding. BG gray, 50. Let's make it 100. This is our p tag cart items. Okay, all right, so now what we want to do on each one of these, right? If we click and add to cart button, which we don't necessarily have. Where is that, right? Why do we not have a button for add to cart? Maybe we don't even put that. That shouldn't even be in here, basically. So let's move this up. We'll just take the class. We'll apply that to the card itself. Why is it not doing what we want? Gap space Y 2. Why are you not doing what I want you to do? All right, I'm not going to stress over it. We'll just wrap it in a div. This will be the div-tastic adventure. I know all of the non-Tailwind CSS guys are probably freaking out at this moment, but okay, we'll use this U button component provided by Nuxt UI, and we're going to click add to cart. We're going to add that item to the cart. Yeah, close enough, right? So if I click add to cart, we can see we've got our cart item here. That's not necessarily what I want, right? The data structure is not entirely what I want. So let's actually just define it here. The item ID, we want this to be our order items, All right, so if we go into order items, we got the menu item. Let's do that. Menu item. Okay. Special instructions. No onions, please. Yeah, we'll just automatically populate that. The quantity, let's set that to 1. And then the item subtotal, we'll just say item price. All right, so now if I refresh, does that give us kind of the structure that we want? It's still populating the entire menu item. We just want the menu item, item.id. That should give us what we need. Okay, does that match the right structure? Great. Where are we at on time? We got 5 minutes or so. Let's actually get this order together, right? All right, so inside our header, maybe we could display our cart items there. Oh, I really wanted to actually show this submitting to Directus. So knowing that I am short on time, right, we could go in and add these items. Let's just try submitting it right now and seeing. All right, so we got our cart items. Let's go in. We've got U button, place order, and we'll call this submit order. Are we passing? We're passing that store ID as well. All right, so this isn't probably the best particular type of design, but it will get the job done. Let's do a large button. At click is submit order, and then we've got the store.id that we're passing to this. And then let's go in and just like, what does our submit order look like? This should be probably like try catch, so we could catch any type of errors. Response, if we catch an error, we want to return the response. Great. Submit order. Ooh, that looks a little rough. Let's move that over here. Oh, I totally put that in the wrong spot anyway. Submit order, and let's just hide this if the user's not logged in as well, right? We don't want them to be able to place an order if you are not logged in. So this composable that I have, I want to say has or like this module that I set up has some of this already built in. So this will be v. Where's the Directus auth? Directus auth user. So we'll do something like this where we get constant user equals use Directus auth. If there is a user. Okay. All right. And if there's not a user, let's do U button. If no user, we are going to, I think I could do this with it, where we have login to place an order, login to order, and we will do, what is it, 2 auth, I don't even need that. We do 2 auth / login to order. Okay, we've got our user. I didn't set up a user, but let's create one now. This will be our user. Test user, test at example.com. Let's give them a real secure password. We'll do a password here. And then I am going to select the role of user. Great. Save it. Now I should actually be able to log in. So test at example.com. Password of that login. Tried to log into the wrong spot. Where's the redirect for this? Use Directus auth. Is this going to be in my Nux config? We want to redirect to auth login, not portal. We want to redirect to the index page. Oh, we're gonna be cutting this one really, really close. Come on. All right, so we go back. We've got our menus. We don't have any cart orders. It looks like am I still logged in? Do we have the cookie? Okay, so we've got a session token here, so it's still showing me as logged in. If we hit add menu items, I hit place order, what happens? We can see the order posted. If we go inside Directus, do we have that specific order? Yes, we do. So here's the store information, here's the order. We've got the item subtotal. We don't have the price is not being populated. So item subtotal should be item.price. Why is that not populating correctly? I didn't add the price either, but item.price. Cool though. I'm calling this a win. So what have we done? We've set up our data model within an hour. We've got all the items coming through. I could go in and clean this up, certainly, and that would be my next steps. But we've got a really simple UI here on the front end that with probably another 20, 30 minutes and a little bit of love, man, this thing would be amazing. So I can go in, if I refresh this page, we should probably ditch that, but I can go in and add my pancakes. I could place the order and see it show up inside Directus. All right. So if we just do a quick review, what did we achieve, right? We got the data model done. Check. We got a list of the menu items for a restaurant. Check. And then we got the place an order for menu items. Boom. Knock all three of those off. I'm going to credit that to my wife being here to help me today. That's it for this episode, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this one. If you did, make sure you hit the subscribe button on Directus TV because we want you to catch more of this content. See ya.